This is 90.1 KPFT FM and FM HD1 Houston, with translators at 89.5 FM K208DG Galveston and 91.9 FM K220 KC Huntsville. Houston's community station, 90.1 KPFT, a Pacifica radio station.
From Pacifica Radio, KPFT 90.1 Houston, this is Open Journal in Exile. Open Journal is the Houston community magazine of the airwaves. Join us as Dwayne Bradley and Stephanie Coleman explore the wonder that is the Petro Metro and the people who make it happen. And now, from our temporary, socially distanced, alternative studios in exile, somewhere in the greater Houston area, this is Open Journal in Exile. Let the conversation begin.
Global climate change is accelerating, according to a new report released last week by the United Nations. There is still time to avoid catastrophic warming this century, but only if countries around the world stop burning fossil fuels as quickly as possible. The author warns, according to the report, this science is clear. Human-caused emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases are the primary drivers of such changes. The Citizens Climate Lobby is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization focused on national policies to address climate change. Dori Wolfe of the local chapter of the Citizens Climate Lobby is with us to talk about the new report and whether it's too late for us to change our course. Thank you for joining us, Dori, and thank you for all your hard work.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, welcome to Open Journal. So, Dori, the Citizens Climate Lobby is doing important work. The United Nations is trying to do important work as well. This sixth climate report they've issued on the climate calls it a code red for the planet of Earth. That's our planet. That's important, I hope, to all of us. What's your take on these most recent findings from the United Nations?
I am sorry to say that it's nothing new, right? That has been part of my life's work. And so we at Citizens Climate Lobby have been working diligently for more than 14 years to make change in a way that is good for businesses, is good for the people, and good for the climate. And so we lobby for those kinds of changes that will have impact.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned the Citizens Climate Lobby has been around for 14 years. Can you tell us a little bit about its background and how it got started? And in the intro, we said that you're with the local chapter of it. Is this a national and international group? Could you put it into a little context for us?
Yes, and if I make any errors, I apologize because I'm not usually speaking for the national, but yes, it's a national, international firm. There's chapters around the world. And it started with an individual who just saw the need for action and what could he do as an individual. And he's like, I can get people to lobby. I can get citizens to lobby. And we do it with respect, appreciation, and gratitude. So generally, we're always welcome back because we haven't, offended. We've just educated, just helped legislators know we have their back. Should they change their mind and decide to say, oh, climate change is an issue we need to address, we're there for them with information. And you asked about our Houston chapter. It's had I've been involved for over 5 years. It's had variations in its format and makeup, but right now it's working very well with a main leader, Joe Garfunkel, and then leaders of different levers. So we have a lever for lobbying, we have a lever for media, we have a lever for grass tops outreach, where we reach out to people of influence who can make change within the local governments and businesses, and then grassroots, where we reach out to citizens to get them engaged.
I like that, grass tops and
Yeah.
grassroots.
That is cute. Very nice. So as you have seen, and even in your 5 years working with the organization, it's such a daunting endeavor that in many ways we feel that we're moving forward as individuals, but it's such the corporate pushback, or maybe just as citizens, maybe our behavior isn't as good as it could be. Do you see roads in which we can all do better? I mean, you seem to be hopeful. Have you seen progress? Are there glimmers of hope? And if so, what are they and what can we do more of?
I have to find hope. You're absolutely right, Stephanie. That's how I wake up every morning, is where can I find hope? And the hope is in the numbers of citizens. In our chapter alone, we have almost 2,000 people that care about climate enough to consider taking action. And that's just with Citizens Climate Lobby. We also, I'm involved in solar and getting people to go solar on the roofs, and that's another positive, hopeful action. The glimmers of hope politically is that even our more conservative legislators are, and again, we're giving them space to do this. They are seeing that, in fact, maybe action is needed. And what that action actually ends up being, even though we have a favorite at Citizens Climate Lobby, we'd like to see a price on carbon and a dividend back to the citizens and a border adjustment, so that we're good for businesses, we're good for the citizens, and we're good for the climate. And so we think, our legislation, HR 2307, is the best, of course, but we want action. We want movement, to your point. We want to see forward progress. And so if we can come up with a bipartisan way to move the needle, then let's go for it. We're all for that. I've listened again over the last many years, but economists say that to move the needle fast enough, we do need a market signal. And the oil majors have gotten behind the idea of putting a price on carbon because it's across the board. It's for all, so that they can make, and it's escalating over time, and it's charted so they can see that path. They can make their economic decisions and start making a difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of the oil majors, we're in the middle of the Offshore Technology Conference happening right here in the heart of downtown Houston over this week. And while it's greatly diminished from its heyday back in the 80s, where it would take over the Astrodome, and it was kind of like the giant oil rodeo of the world happening, much more scaled down. And there's actually feature panels have been held on offshore wind technology as an investable and ongoing option for people to seriously look at, including these oil majors. How much hope do you find in that, and what would you say to encourage more of that type of forward thinking from the folks who are really going to have to change the way they look at their business models in order to both save themselves and save the rest of us?
Yes, if we can take the skill sets that we're good at ocean, doing work out in the harsh environments of the ocean, if we can transition that to harness the wind from the ocean, then absolutely that is one of several paths forward of transition that should work. It may not be like for every coal plant that gets shut down out of necessity. It may not be we have equal job offers there, but transitioning requires change, and jobs will be made in that new renewable economy.
And, just to sort of speak to the wind and not to sort of play devil's advocate on that, but just curious, everything seems to come with a price. Our consumption is really escalating as citizens of this planet. And when you look at the wind farms, they take up a lot of real estate. They might not have as much environmental damage, but they do have some visual damage and
Aesthetic
damage. And I don't know if the birds like them out there all the time. But are there other things to consider, or do you think that if we had to sort of pick our poison, that is a better choice overall? Or is there something that we're not thinking of that you might be aware of, minus just minimizing our TV consumption?
There you go. I like, Stephanie, your aesthetics in a way, in that that every, not your aesthetics as much as your view, in that everything we do has impact. Every step we make. And if so, the first step, if we can use less, great. As an individual, we need the government to help guide us in that process. But yes, where the challenge is with wind, in solar on our roofs and solar out in the fields, is we see it. Whereas oil underground and all that methane emissions, we don't see it, right? So yes, it's a change to see where our energy comes from, and hopefully make us more mindful and cautious in our use of it. But we need to recognize that, yes, our consumption has an impact, has a carbon footprint associated with it. And I don't know if I haven't told you about me. I'm sort of an energy
expert.
Nazi. Oh, thank you. Expert was a much better word. I think about it all the time. I try and reduce my plastic use. I try and live within my solar means. But still, I will get on a plane, right? One of the worst ways of transportation. Yeah. So when I start to fall apart and say, how are we going to get through this? Because of exactly what you described, Stephanie, my husband will say, we need leadership, right? We need global now, but also our country, we used to lead in these things. We need to lead in the legislation that makes us all want to conserve and want to have a greener footprint.
So with that legislation, what should we as citizens, what should we be telling our state and federal, even our city leadership on these issues? What should we be writing letters on behalf of? What are the key topics that we should focus our energies?
Well, all right, so I'll put my Citizens Climate Lobby hat on squarely and say, let your senators, let your your representatives know that we do want leadership. We want them to take action on climate. And so writing letters to the editor, writing letters to your legislators is good. Calling them is good. Citizens Climate Lobby has a monthly call campaign. I like the analogy, the Grand Canyon was created one water droplet at a time, right? One call at a time, over and over again, lets the legislators know that this is becoming their citizens' topic of choice is climate. So we do have a calling campaign where we register our calls. We're always polite and thankful, but we are persistent in that request. Other actions, I'm proud to be a Houstonian. I think Mayor Turner and the Climate Action Plan is a good step in the right direction. So we're lucky that we're not fighting that. At the state level, I know Citizens Climate Lobby, usually we focus on federal level, but we are working on getting at least a resolution passed that climate is an issue. And I wanted to go back to the wind turbine because they take up a lot of real estate. Texas has a lot of real estate. So, and the fact that you can graze cattle around wind turbines is a wonderful thing. So when I'm just stepping back to say, my aesthetics are, I see that, I know it's not polluting, and I know it fits in Texas landscape. It really does. So that just putting that positive in. I'm still a solar distributed generation. I still love solar on roofs, but I'm supportive of those wind turbines as well.
So Dori Wolfe, I wanted to touch on that solar rooftop activity and how that could work in Houston and in different neighborhoods in Houston. I know there's a lot of reticence in terms of the buy-in, and then fears of like, oh, well, it's gonna ruin my roof, the first big wind or the next hurricane. It's gonna rip it all off and take my roof along with it. What can you say to alleviate I'll just say my fears
There you go.
of throwing
All right.
that up on my roof.
All right, Dwayne, here you go. One, we have a great Solar 101 at Solar United Neighbors, another nonprofit that you can watch, and it will alleviate those fears. But the solar designed on roofs is designed to not leak for 25 years, right? They're 25-year warranty, workmanship oftentimes included in that. And they are rated. They have to be rated to withstand the normal hurricanes for Houston. That said, you insure them. If your roof gets taken off, if your roof has solar, that will get taken off as well. All right, so it's not, although I have seen a wonderful picture from Florida, not a wonderful, it was a terrible picture, but the house was destroyed by a weather event and the solar remained. The parts of the roof that didn't have solar were gone, but the part that had solar remained. But anyway, no guarantees there. So you do get it insured. The beauty of distributed generation, like solar, is that you can add battery storage. One can add battery storage, and it allows you to weather those storms when they come, like Storm Uri, just knowing you have some, heat, ability to move some air around, get some heat. So we have seen, I'm switching hats, as you might notice, to Solar United Neighbors, but this last co-op that Mayor Turner supported, the Houston Solar Co-op, has over almost 300 members. And of the first 26 contracts signed, about 13 of them we're now up to 18 solar with battery storage contracts, which is just amazing. And I think that's the effect of Storm Uri. They're saying, oh, I can quietly, without a generator, with no fossil fuels, instant backup, I can provide some security for my homes. So there's a plug.
So as we look at what we've done as community and the next generation, how much weight and responsibility are so the children of the future left to carry with climate control? Do we need to really change the perspective for our new up and coming elected officials to walk in with this as a part of the mission?
No, absolutely. We don't want to burden our children and their children with more than they already are burdened with. And so, yes, educating, making it part of new incumbents' platforms is important to do. And again, I'll just give another solar story, but I have members of co-ops that are on the older side, and they're like, 25-year warranty does me no good. I don't plan to be around that long. And my response is, you are improving the housing stock for generations to come. And so, again, we all need that longer vision, that longer sight, so we can help that next generation.
I like that that point of view, Dori, because too often our world and its shared future is determined on a 90-day window based on a quarterly capitalist perspective of profits and dividends and that kind of angle, versus the more, I'd say, indigenous point of view of like a seventh generation point of view, that it's my children's children's children that I should be thinking about, rather than whether I'm going to increase my quarterly bottom line over the last one to meet some prediction by some think tank in Wall Street or something along those lines. So in the Citizens Climate Lobby structure, how do people get involved, and how would someone listening right now, or one of us, plug into the Citizens Climate Lobby structure?
In non-COVID days, we would be out tabling, and we'd be out, giving you paperwork to sign and a letter to write off to your legislator. Now it's as easy as click and join. There's no cost to become a member of Citizens Climate Lobby. Just look up for citizensclimatelobby.org and join. And then it's up to you how much you want to get involved. Their website, their community center, has so much information. You can get training on how to become a good lobbyist. You can join a chapter and get involved. We have monthly meetings right now virtually. But so it's up to you how much you want to grow and learn and help through Citizens Climate Lobby.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Good to know.
And I'll just add that numbers matter to legislators. So when we
Yeah.
tell them that we have a list of, over 2,000 people, that makes a difference.
And flipping just briefly to one of your multiple other hats, because we know that in a past life you were involved in like solar arrays for neighborhoods and projects and different things. You mentioned Solar United Neighbors. Is that like a .org? I can follow it up or Google it to get more info to alleviate my fear of losing my roof, or maybe having to fight with my neighborhood association about even installing it and other issues that might come up.
Absolutely, Dwayne. SolarUnitedNeighbors.org. And again, you can join that as well, become a volunteer. You can become a champion for your neighborhood and set up a solar co-op, which is basically a group purchasing entity that lives long enough to get people who want to go solar and then fades away until the next one comes up. But our mission is threefold at Solar United Neighbors. It is to educate and to waylay those fears. It is to advocate, to make sure that we keep the right, solar is the most democratic form of energy there is. It shines down on all of us. So we need to keep that right to put solar, to hold and make energy from the sun. So advocating and then coming together. That's what our co-ops do. We bring people together to know they're not alone in this process. They can do it together. And there was something else I was going to share, but I can't remember now.
That's good, though. We're so glad for all the work because it is twofold. It is both the advocacy against or sort of towards a more united and holistic approach to saving our planet. And then it is the individual work that we have to do as self in this process. So we can't just turn over that responsibility and walk away from what we can do on a day-to-day basis. So it is so wonderful for what you have done in the Citizens Climate Lobby. And we're just so glad to have had you on. And we'll keep up with all the good work that you're doing and be a part of that journey as well.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Dori Wolfe, for joining us on this special In Exile edition of Open Journal.